Hi, I'm Laura, and this is the Solo Business Playbook podcast. If you're building a business on your own, thinking about starting to freelance, but feel like you have no idea what you're doing, then you're in the right place. I've taken the non-traditional path from the 9 to 5 into freelancing and now running my own business. And on this podcast, I'm sharing what's actually worked, what hasn't, and everything I'm still figuring out along the way. We'll talk about finding clients, growing your income, and building a solo business that actually supports your life without leaning into hustle culture, and with real stories from other freelancers and founders. So let's get into it. Hi there, and welcome back to another episode. Today I'm joined by Danielle Greene, founder of Greene Creatives. I'm so happy to have you here. Thank you for joining me for this episode.
Thank you for having me.
No worries. So for anyone who is listening for the first time, how would you describe what you do and all about Greene Creatives?
So, Greene Creatives is a marketing agency. We mainly work in social media, but we do other projects like websites, email marketing, and things like that. But social media is probably the main thing we work on with clients. The difference, I think, with Greene Creatives is we keep it very real. So, when I show up as a founder, I'm just very real about what it's like running a business.
Yeah.
And in terms of how that works for clients is we focus on getting them results that's actually going to grow their business, not just focusing on going viral or like all the
hmm
vanity metrics.
Yeah, I love that because I feel like, especially recently, with the growth of AI and things like that, I think there's so much more emphasis and importance on just being yourself and selling
Yeah.
through being who you are and being relatable. So I love that. So you mentioned that you've been running for 5 years now, is that right?
Yeah, so 5 years I've been self-employed. It'll be
hmm
6 in October, but the business has been going for coming up for 8 years, but
Wow.
I did it on the side for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And does it feel like that's been ages, or do you feel like it's 8 years has gone by in a flash?
It's a bit of a mix. Like when I think back to 8 years when it started, it seems so long ago because it's just grown a lot since then,
Yeah.
but also it has went really fast. So yeah, it
Yeah.
is a bit of a mix. We've done a lot, so I think that makes it seem like it's went really fast, but
hmm
also when you're in the trenches, it could seem like you've been doing this for 10 years.
Yeah. I know exactly the feeling. And what were you doing before Green Creatives? Obviously, it started as a side hustle and then
Yeah.
evolved into kind of what it is now. But what were you doing before that?
So I've always worked in marketing.
hmm
I did a marketing degree, graduated, got a job in-house with a brand and loved it and helped build them online. And then that's kind of where Green Creative started. I started helping my friend.
hmm
She opened a salon, was struggling like keeping up on her social media and things. And I was like, I'll just do it. And that's literally how it started. So I then left the brand because I just felt like I needed a bit more. I absolutely loved that job. I just needed a bit of a change. And I
hmm
went into a more corporate marketing role, which was horrendous. Hated it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I suppose, though, making that jump and being unhappy in a job probably gave me like the fire in my belly to make Green Creatives work. So
Yeah,
everything
definitely.
does happen for a reason. But yeah, that is probably something that I don't regret because it did teach me a lot. But yeah, it just wasn't for me.
Yeah. Was there a lot of difference between like corporate marketing and then what were you doing
Yeah.
like for the
So I
brand?
I was working for a brand, it was a watch brand and so it was a really small team. I did
hmm
most of the marketing myself, so we got to be like really creative.
Yeah.
Whereas the corporate job, it was in the oil industry.
Okay. Not
So
as
it was
fun.
no, and it was a huge jump. But my husband, he was my boyfriend at the time. He's always worked in the oil industry, so I was like, oh, yeah, I'll give it a go. But yeah, I didn't like there's a lot of red tape.
Yeah.
Ideas needed to be approved by a lot of people, and I'd never been in a role where it mattered what role you were in the business. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it just
I
wasn't for me, and I'm such an empath, and I felt it was very like dog eat dog
Yeah, I
world,
do.
and
I hear that about the corporate world for sure.
just I my nervous system just did
Mm.
not cope with that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a really shock to the system.
I feel like I hear quite a lot as well about people that do marketing in corporate, and I agree, I've heard so much about the red tape and things like that, but also about like approvals being done by not necessarily creative people. So they almost just like can't see the vision for what you're doing. And
No,
I think like one of the most important things in any business is hiring people that you can put your full trust in to do the job that you can't do. So I find it so interesting when there's so many approvals that you need to go through, when ultimately you're the creative person that's been hired for the creative role. So your creative judgment should be trusted.
yeah. I think because it was quite a technical industry as well, so I did really build up their LinkedIn, but I needed to work with like experts in the field that we worked in to help
Yeah.
create the content. It just wasn't for me, but
Yeah. That's fair
we
enough.
live and learn.
Yeah, definitely. And so I guess this kind of leads me into my next question of like, when you first started that side hustle, did you ever think that eventually it would be a fully fledged full-time business for you?
No, I actually had this conversation. I'm about to do some training for myself about being a leader and
Hmm.
things like that, like leadership training, because I've never been a manager or anything, and now I've got a team. But I actually said the sentence and I was like, oh, I've never really thought of it like this before. This business has happened out of a mistake. Like,
Yeah,
not a mistake, but it just happened.
yeah.
And I remember I helped my friend for a few months and then I was like, oh, maybe I could create an Instagram for Greene Creatives and see what work comes in. And I remember I was at the brand job and I remember someone asking me like, "Oh, are you going to like go out on your own?" And I said, "Oh no, I can't be bothered like chasing invoices and
Hmm.
things like that." And I was like, I had no intention
Yeah,
of doing that full time. So yeah, I had genuinely when I said to my friend, "I'll do your post," I had no idea that this was all about to happen.
yeah, that's amazing. And was there like a pivotal moment where you were like, okay, I'm going to go all in now?
Yeah.
Obviously, not enjoying the corporate role, I guess, played a part, but was there, yeah, a moment, even financially, where you thought, actually, yeah, I can make this work and take that jump?
Yeah, so it was in 2020
Hmm.
lockdown, and I didn't get put on furlough, even though I was like, "Oh, please, that would make my life so much easier." But I was still working and I was doing the two jobs, so my job and Green Creatives. But a lot of businesses obviously had to close and they realized they needed an online presence. One of my clients that I still work with now, we continued to post for her throughout lockdown, and she came back from lockdown the busiest she's ever been because
Wow.
we stayed consistent, whereas a lot of
Hmm.
other businesses just stopped posting. So
Yeah.
because we'd stayed consistent, she was still in people's minds. And I just used to moan. I was so tired. I just used to moan about like being overwhelmed to my mum and my husband, and they were like, "Just leave." And I
Yeah.
was like, I can't." Like, I just it wasn't even like the financial stuff because the business had to put inquiries on a wait list
Yeah.
because
Wow.
I just couldn't do it all that was coming in. And I'm not the type of person that'll just jump into things. Like, we have a son, we had responsibilities, a
Hmm.
mortgage, things like that. So I saved up 3 months of my half of the bills. So I at
Yeah.
least had a buffer. We had two cars at the time, but I was obviously working from home. So my husband, we sold one of the cars so that we just went down to one car.
Yeah.
So we did make really sensible decisions. Like, I've unfortunately, this isn't a story where it's like, oh, I just went, I'll
Yeah.
just Yeah, just do it.
Fuck it.
Yeah, we did really think about it. And I hope me saying this helps people because I
Mm.
used to listen to business podcasts all the time when I was driving to my old job and be like, how can they just quit?
Yes,
But I really did think about it. But even when I had that plan in place, I was still felt so bad about leaving my job. And if anyone is in this position and they're thinking about this, if you work in a corporate world, you really are just a number. And
100%.
I should have left a lot sooner than I did. But basically, long story short, I had a holiday. I had no intentions of handing my notice. I did know I needed to do it, but I didn't know when. And I just sat in a Teams call, and this just overwhelming feeling came over me. I was like, I can't do this anymore. And in
Yeah.
the Teams call, I was like, by the way, I'm leaving. It just,
Mic drop.
um, yeah. And yeah, I was really burnt out. And I just remember thinking, I can't go on like this. And if I'm going to make a go of it, it needs to be now. So,
Yeah, definitely. I feel like I have quite a similar story to yours in terms of when I was a freelancer because I'd wanted to freelance for so long, did it on the side of my 9 to 5, and then got to the point where I was doing 40 hours a week in my 9 to 5 and then 25 hours a week on top of that freelancing.
mm,
And again, I just got to a point where I was like, this isn't sustainable now, but I've been doing this for about 6 months. So like I'm pretty confident that if I left my job now, I'm going to be all right. And I completely agree. I've seen so many like even TikToks recently where people have been like, I decided to quit my job and go all in on opening a cafe. And I'm like, how? That is like one of the most expensive businesses you can
I
start.
know.
And they make it out like it was just like an easy, quick decision that they woke up
Mhm.
one morning and they were like, oh, I'm going to start a cafe. Here's my notice. Whereas I think actually, in reality, a lot of the stories are a lot more like yours and mine, where we did slowly do it and we were doing multiple jobs alongside it for a while before we then
Yeah.
took the leap. So, was there any point after you left your previous job and you've gone all in, and especially being during COVID as well, when things were quite uncertain? Was there any point where you thought maybe I've made the wrong choice?
Um, I suppose, yeah. Well, there probably has been, but never to a point where I'm like, this isn't going to work. Nearly 6 years on, I still worry about like clients disappearing.
Mhm.
Like it's funny because I always say, and I've said in my podcast before, if I knew 6 years ago the income that we bring in, I would be like, oh my God, I've made it as such.
Yeah,
But the more cash you bring in, the more you have to pay out because obviously
yeah,
I've got a team that helps bring in that with clients and stuff like that as well. So I think the only thing was obviously I took a big salary cut. I was on quite a big salary. I paid myself at the start just enough to pay the bills. If I
hmm,
wanted to do anything extra, I would obviously like I had a really supportive partner, so that helped. And I'm all for being independent women and things like that, but I'm also very open on if I wasn't with him, this would have took a lot longer.
yeah, for sure.
Um, so yeah, I think that's probably the only thing. It's the money worry, and you're like, if I was on a salary, this wouldn't be an
Yeah,
issue. But
yeah,
apart from that, I don't really regret. I never thought, oh,
yeah.
what have I done?
I feel like it's normally like a fleeting moment where you've like had a bad day or something and you're like,
Oh
oh
yeah,
God, have I made the wrong decision? And then you go to sleep and you wake up in the morning and you're like, I love my life.
yeah. Like the stress of it. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes is a lot, and you're
Yeah,
like, oh, I wish I just finished at 5 and then that was it.
yeah,
But I don't know. I'm the type of person that needs to be working in something that matters. I couldn't just do a 9 to 5 job, so I'd probably be
no.
unhappy if I was doing that.
That's the thing. I feel like people look at us or look at people that have started businesses and think, oh my God, you have so much freedom. But you're like, I do, but I also do work a lot. Like
Yeah.
I work in the evenings, I dream about work, I wake up and it's the first thing I think about. So like we don't go to a 9 to 5 and then switch off when we're not there. So there's definitely a balance, but I think most people who are doing it do it because they love it, and that is just who they are naturally. Like I always say, even if I won the lottery, like I would still work because I
So do
enjoy what I
I.
do. Yeah. I wanted to come back to the fact that you have a team, because that's obviously such an impressive achievement. And
Yeah.
like, how long did it take you to go from doing it solo to then starting to bring on team members to help you? And how did you find that experience as well?
Yeah, so I think one thing I have done since the start of the business that I think has actually benefited me quite a bit is I've always outsourced
Hmm.
something. It's not like I've always kind of factored that into the finances. So at the very start, it was like a VA I had. And then, yeah, I just kind of got to a point where I was like, if I'm going to grow this and not run myself into the ground, I'm going to need some help. So I did have like admin support, but I needed someone that had the marketing experience as
Yeah.
well. So at the very start, I was maybe like 2 years in to being self-employed, a year and a half maybe. I worked with someone on a freelance agreement, and it was literally something like 30 hours a month. I think
Hmm.
they worked like 6 hours a week or something like that. And that just took some of the client work off me and allowed me to take on more projects, things like that. And then they sort of went and did their own thing, and was like, got to the point again where I needed support.
Hmm.
And I've never actually had to go through the full putting out a job advert,
Hmm.
interviewing people. So my very first employee was my best friend's little sister.
Yeah.
So she was basically looking for a job. Actually, her sister put in our chat, if anyone hears about a job, Neve's looking. And I was like, oh, because I like the idea that I know Neve. I've known her since she was a little
Hmm.
girl. I just knew what she was like personally. So we had a chat and I was like, this is what I want to do. She'd done a business degree with sports management. So she had that business element. And yeah,
Yeah.
I basically trained her up on the socials.
Yeah.
And she still works for me today.
That's amazing.
Yeah, she's part-time, she only does 1 day a week now, but yeah, so she's been with me for 3 years. So, I think business owners really struggle with the trust, like, you need to trust, and I think the
Yeah.
situation we were in with me that gave because I knew her, that helped.
Yeah.
And then Amy, who I've just gave a full-time contract,
Wow.
she I worked with a local university, and
Okay. Yeah.
she was doing a marketing degree, and as part of their 3rd year, they have to do, like, a placement. So
Hmm.
she came and worked with me for 12 weeks as part of her course.
Yeah.
So that was such a good way to do it because I got to see I think with marketing, you either get it or you don't,
100%. I agree with
and
you.
being able to see her when she was doing the placement, I was like, "She's got it," and
Yeah. Wow.
then I then said to her, "Would you be interested in working when you graduate?" And that's how that happened. So, yeah, I don't even know if I've answered your question, but that was that was the journey.
No, that's good because I feel like as well, I completely agree with you about the trust element. I'm also really bad at like, I know I need to delegate this, but it would just be quicker if I do it rather than trying to show someone how to do it. So
Yeah,
that's where I've really struggled. And I do also think that even the process of trying to find someone, like you say, if you are having to put job ads out, interview strangers, not really know how they work, onboard them, see how they get on, and then you potentially back to square one. It is a really daunting process because you just think, oh, this is going to take me so long. And I do think, yeah, if you've got people around you that you trust and you know that they can do a good job, it's such a great kind of network to tap into um,
yeah.
if you
I
are
think
looking for support.
as well, again, anyone listening, just because I do have a team, it doesn't like, I still struggle with delegating.
Yeah.
I still do stuff that's like, "I'll just do it, it's quicker."
Yeah.
But I am trying. I think it's just a process when it is your own business. It's your baby. You're always gonna,
Yeah.
like, think that you know best. So but I am trying to one thing that I did do more at the start was, like, protect them from
Hmm.
any difficult clients or things like that, and then I would just get stressed out, but now I'm like, "Okay, no, you guys need to go and deal with that," or "I
Yeah.
can't do it, so Amy, can you go?" and things like that, but it is still it's not like you hire them and all your problems disappear, it's still
No,
very much a
definitely not.
learning process.
Yeah, for sure. And I think as well, like, it's one thing bringing someone on to help you with like admin and operations and whatever that might be. But once you bring on people to actually start delivering to clients for you,
Yeah.
that is just like you have such a high expectation set by them, and you obviously have your relationship with them that you don't want to jeopardize as well.
Yeah.
So hiring the right person for actual client work is like almost even more important than doing it for
Yeah.
like a VA or admin support.
Yeah,
um
definitely.
so coming back to the earlier days, I jumped ahead a bit there because I was like intrigued to ask about having a team. Was there anything that you've had to learn the hard way that you wish someone had told you before you started?
Being really clear on what you offer is so important.
Hmm.
At the start, we did have like social media management, but it was very much someone would get in touch and say, "Can you do this?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, no." Like 80% of the time, though, I would say yeah because I felt
Hmm.
like I needed to bring the money in. I felt like I wasn't really clear on my services, the processes, onboarding a client. Nope, wasn't clear on that. Contracts. At the start, nothing really happened, but in the past couple of years, I've had a couple of things where the contracts actually been a godsend,
Hmm.
or I've maybe took on a project and been like, oh, we've not went through all the onboarding steps, so it's actually came and caused an issue later on.
Yeah.
Things like that, I wish someone told me more about from the start. Also, as well, like not getting personal
Yeah.
with all that. Like, I am friends with some clients now because we've worked with them for so long, but sometimes it's not good to mix. And you'll hear this all the time, but if you've got a gut feeling that this isn't the right client to work with, it's
Yeah.
probably right. And
Yeah.
although it sounds daft not taking the client on at the time, if you go against your gut, it'll end up causing you more time and money down the
Yeah.
line. And that's such a cheesy like thing you hear about in business all the time, but it's so true. And
Yeah.
I've experienced it.
Yeah, me too. And that's on one thing that I always say to people is even though it's tempting to, especially when you're starting for the money and the financial aspect, like you shouldn't be saying yes to everyone and you should be
No,
exactly as you said, going with your gut. And I had earlier on in my, like when I was first starting to freelance 5 years ago, I had the exact same thing. Like there was a couple of clients that I took on and I was a bit like, when they're negotiating fees and things like that. And then I just knew that they would be a pain further down the line, and I was proved correct. Whereas any client I've had that's like never questioned the pricing, never like negotiated anything, they've always just been a dream to work with, because the ones that try and negotiate the most are always the ones that expect the most as well. They want to expect the most but pay the least. So
yes.
I always
I
say to
always think,
people, just
yeah,
avoid. It's not
your
worth your time.
clients, sometimes the clients that pay the higher retainers, you never hear from
Yep, exactly
because
that.
they just trust what you're doing and stuff. Whereas, yeah, I've had the exact same
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah, it's really interesting. One of my highest paying clients, I hear from them maybe once every 4 months, and they just let me, and I do retainer work weekly for them.
Yeah.
They just let me get on with it. So it's great. And yes, a sign not to settle for the low ballers. Coming back to finding clients, you said that you were putting people on a wait list like back in the COVID days. And how were these clients finding you? Like, what was the kind of inquiry process? Were you like posting on socials? I guess you mentioned that you had your Instagram, but was there anything else you were doing to
Yeah, so
advertise your services?
most of it just came from word of mouth. My friend's salon did really well. So people would be saying to her, how are you managing to run the salon and post? Because we were posting like every day at the time.
Yeah,
And she said she wasn't. So she would like say who was doing her socials. And yeah, I just used to post on Instagram. Didn't have a website. That was one of the things that I did when I went full time. I tried to work on that.
yeah,
And but yeah, it was mainly just word of mouth and Instagram. And then the wait list, yeah, that came about because I was so burnt out. I couldn't So I just basically was, I think I set it in the July. I was like, I'm not taking
Mhm.
on any more projects until the September. So then I knew I had a little bit of a backlog to work through when I went
Yeah.
full time.
I think that's such a great idea, and it's something that I'd not even thought about before. But I guess it's a good lesson for anyone who's thinking of starting and not ready to take the leap out of their full-time
Yeah.
job yet. But it's such a good way of building up a potential pipeline while
Yeah.
you're still have the comfort of your 9 to 5 salary. So I love that idea. I think it's so good. And coming back as well to pricing, because I think this is something that a lot of people struggle with when they first start either freelancing or launch a business, is pricing right, but also not underpricing yourself because you think that it will land you more clients in the beginning. What was your experience when it came to pricing your services, and how does that look like now as well?
Yeah. So one of the things I would say is at the start, it's so hard because, like you say, you're trying to get business in, but you also need to make money.
Hmm.
But one thing I wish I hadn't done is, the thing is, if you're good at your job and you price at a lower price to get that client in, what's going to end up happening is they'll probably continue to work with you.
Yeah,
So then it's really difficult to raise the price to what you actually should have been charging at the start.
yeah.
To be honest, I don't have an answer for what to do
No.
because I know you need to lower it to get them in, but I think you just need to maybe be very clear that it's an intro offer.
Yeah.
This is you getting experience.
Hmm.
In 3 months, this might increase. We're kind of doing something similar just now. So because Amy went full time in June, I did a mini content session
Hmm.
offer. And in all the marketing, the website page, I made it very clear that this was with Amy. It was her gaining experience, and that's why it was at a reduced rate. So
Yeah.
if we do one later on, it'll be
Yeah.
what the price should be. So yeah, I think that's something that I did struggle with, like not being able to raise those
Hmm.
prices that you had at the start.
Yeah.
Pricing is really difficult. Even now, I doubt myself when
Hmm.
I send pricing, I feel like I've never really got the right advice on that. I don't know.
Yeah.
A lot of the podcasts or courses or that I've done, they've been with businesses that are in England, like down south.
Hmm.
I'm obviously in Scotland, and
Yeah.
our cost of living's a lot different than you guys. So
Yeah.
a lot of the businesses I work with are local. So I've struggled. I've been like, there's no way they would pay that.
Yeah.
So that is something that I have struggled with, but I think it's just knowing your worth and the work that goes into it.
And like you
Yeah.
say, knowing your audience as well. And like
Yeah.
for, yeah, small local businesses, they're not going to have the same budget as like a huge global brand, obviously.
Yeah.
So, but the chances are that in your business, you're not necessarily going to help both businesses on that scale. You're either going to be helping the global brands or you're going to be helping the local businesses. And I do think, because I'm very firm in my advice of people not to lower their prices, and like
Yeah.
you need to be charging what you're worth from the start, because yeah, I do think the lower prices will attract lower quality clients like we've mentioned. But I do love your idea of the introductory offer, because I think
Yeah.
for people that are getting started and they maybe don't have a big network already that they can tap into, or they may not know anyone who's in business that they could help or offer their services to start. It's such a good way of like almost relieving the pressure of getting no's back from clients and thinking,
Mm.
oh, I need to charge less because that's obviously why they're saying no.
Yeah.
I really like that idea of, yeah, this is an introductory, and whether that's like 1, 2, 3 months, and then the price goes up to this if you want to keep working with you, because then it's also a really good opportunity to show someone how good you are
Yeah.
and make them think, we can't live without this person, we need this person to help our business.
Exactly. And I think that is the relationship that I've built up with a lot of our clients that have worked with us since the start.
Hmm.
And one thing I would say as well is when you work in marketing, social media management, way back at the start, so say I was pricing this at like 8 years ago. it wasn't as common, like, locally. I was probably one of the only people I know that was, like, doing it. It wasn't as
Hmm.
common to have a social media manager,
Yeah.
so people didn't realise the value in it because it wasn't a service that they'd ever experienced before.
Yeah.
But I think now, if I started now, it would be a lot different because people know the value behind it. And what I would
Definitely.
say if you are listening to this as a social media manager, you do so much more than just post on Instagram. And I think it needs to be clear, one, that you price because you do so much more than that, but
Hmm.
also you're not a marketing department. And some people will hire you thinking, okay, so you're the social media manager. Could you go and update that website page?
Yeah,
No,
could
that's
you
a
send
total
an email newsletter? I see it
yeah,
so much, especially on job descriptions that are looking for a marketing person, and they've
yeah,
listed, like, fair enough, the jobs of a marketing person, and then they always include social media management in it as well. And I'm like, that is a separate job. Like, tell me you've never done social media management, because you would
yeah.
know that it is a full-time job. And it's like coming back to the friend that you helped with her salon. Yeah, there was no way you'd be able to run a salon and post on social media every day and film the content and write the captions and edit the videos and just engage with comments. And
Even in social media
yeah,
management, there's so many different levels. So some clients, all we do is post on their feed for them. Some of them we do their stories. Some
yeah,
of them we engage in their accounts. There's so many different levels of it, and I hope it's been a job for a long time now. I hope the longer it is, people do realize the work that goes into it
yeah,
because it's a lot.
it is. Yeah. And I think, as like a lot of first time founders, I find it really hard to outsource it, because I feel like I need to be the one obviously recording the videos and talking to the camera and stuff like
Yeah,
that. But even just having someone to help you with at least the strategy side of it.
yeah,
And that's where I sought help, was like just someone to tell me what to film, what to say, when to post it, and then I can do the rest. But I just almost need like that guidance as well. So yeah, it's definitely something that you can't do if you're doing everything else, for sure.
no,
So you talk about, and you mentioned at the beginning of the episode, kind of being real and not showing up too polished or
yeah.
aesthetic, maybe. So how does that look like day to day for you? And then I guess, how does that filter out then into what types of content are you making for clients to keep that ethos going?
Yeah, so I think day to day from like our business standpoint, I've always shared the reality of it, as in I don't share like what's personally going on in my life,
Mm,
or but I do share the late nights working on a Sunday, just actually not posting on Instagram because I'm being honest why I'm not, because I'm actually
mm-hmm.
doing this for a client. I've always done that since the start. I also launched our podcast last year, and that the creative conversation, and that's interviews business owners like us
Yeah.
just sharing their story, because I kind of got sick of listening to business podcasts that were just people that had made it.
Mm-hmm.
They're not
All
still
you
like
need to do
trying
is hustle, just keep
to, yeah.
grinding.
So that's something else that we've done recently. And then I've got a shared office.
Mm-hmm.
So my family own an accountancy firm. So
Okay.
I use one of their rooms, and it's not aesthetically pleasing. There's accounts everywhere, folders everywhere, but it's just a shared room that I could use without paying massive office
Yeah.
fees. And I feel like recently I would see on TikTok like people that work in marketing and aesthetic outfits of the day, aesthetic offices and things like that. And I was like, oh, and it gets to me as well. Like, should I go and get a new office? So we started a new series of basically how I turn up to my work every day. And it's me coming into the office. Sometimes I am in like a polished kind of
Yeah.
outfit because I'm about to go and do something with a client. Sometimes, like today, I'm actually in my gym stuff because I'm going to a
Yep.
gym later on. So it's just to show people, even if you aren't in a business, that this is how I run this from behind the scenes. So we do
Yeah.
that. And client wise, obviously what we do for them is polished and
Yeah.
it promotes their business and things like that. But that's obviously the contrast that I'm trying to show. Like, this is the work that we are known for. but
But this is how we do it.
this is how we do it.
Yeah,
Um,
I love that.
and then with clients, I always say to them, like, I'm never going to make you do something you don't want to do. So if you don't want to show up on camera, if you don't want to dance on TikTok, that's just not what we're about. So we
Yeah.
keep them real with that. And I just help. I've one of the client that I had, she really wanted to get a certain amount of followers when she first worked with me, and I was like, why? I don't. What is the point? And then I think it's because people just assumed that that's what you need to do to grow. And I was like, you either want to be an influencer or we're running a business. What one do you want to do? And she was like, I'm running a business. So now we
Mhm.
focus on appointments and stuff. Whereas I've said to people in inquiry calls, if they've mentioned followers, I'm like, that's not going to happen because when was the last time you followed someone on Instagram?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's changed how we use the app. So, yeah, I think with them, the clients being real, at the end of the day, I say to them, we're here to help grow your
Money.
business,
Yeah.
money, like whatever it is. And that's what we focus on.
Yeah, because that's the thing as well. I think people can get so caught up in the numbers of followers and things like that. And obviously, the more people you're reaching in general, the more eyes on your business. That does make sense. But a high number of followers doesn't guarantee a high number of sales. So,
No,
and especially like you're saying, if you're helping local businesses, there's no point going viral in the US and getting 100,000 followers that are never going to come to your local salon.
no,
So there's
exactly.
also a balance there.
And one of the clients we do have is like an ethical fashion designer. And if she went viral, she wouldn't manage the
Yeah,
order.
that's so true.
Genuinely wouldn't manage the order. So it's like that's not what the goal is here.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah. For maybe founders or business owners that are wanting to share more about their business, but perhaps not fully comfortable with being on camera or they don't really want to share too much, what would be your advice to like those types of clients?
I think first step would be getting clear on what you're comfortable sharing. And once you find that, I think you need to really hone in on what's your why. So why are you doing this? What's the why behind your business? So as an example, I've always been really passionate about making marketing accessible to small independents, and that's something that I continue to do. So I always feel like when I feel uncomfortable about something, I'm like, but if I show up, that could really encourage
Hmm.
someone else to do it. So that's my why. But I think you need to get really clear on why you're doing this. And I think when
Hmm.
you do that, it gives you that little spark to be like, okay, this is how we're going to do it. But yeah, that'd be my two pieces of advice. You need to really get clear on what you're comfortable sharing and
Hmm.
why you're doing it. And I think that does
Yeah,
help.
yeah. And also how I think, because like
Yeah.
for me, I have no problem with being like talking to a camera. But for some reason, even though most of my clients would be on LinkedIn, like that is where they hang out because I'm very B2B.
Yeah.
But I just cannot bring myself to post on LinkedIn. It just feels so inauthentic to me.
I'm
And
the exact same. I've never got into the swing of LinkedIn.
yeah,
I can't.
yeah. And
Yeah.
I don't know what it is because in theory, it's not really any different from writing like an Instagram caption, but it just doesn't, I just can't, I feel like I can't be myself on LinkedIn. So I just can like the whole time when I first started my business, I was like, I need to start posting on LinkedIn. I need to start posting on LinkedIn. And I was just procrastinating so hard because it just wasn't coming naturally to me. And I think like forcing yourself to do something that you are really uncomfortable with
Yeah.
is that's not going to sell for you either. So because it's not going to come across as genuine. Um,
Yeah.
so I completely agree with you. I think get clear on yeah what you are comfortable with and also what you enjoy, how you enjoy sharing.
Mm.
So it might not even be necessarily on a social platform, it could even be in a podcast or like on a YouTube channel or through like email marketing and things like that. Like, there's
Yeah.
so many ways to still speak to your audiences.
100%. I actually had this with a client last year. It was a consultancy client. We were speaking about like their own journey, they're perimenopause coaches, so their own journeys are actually really relevant.
Hmm.
And they said they weren't sure about sharing their story on social media. And I was like, what
Hmm.
about an email marketing, like a newsletter? And they were like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
I would have no issue doing that. And that's kind of like what they honed in on. So yeah,
Yeah.
100%. It doesn't need to be, I think TikTok is kind of, people are open now with like crying on TikTok and things like
Mm.
that. I would never do that.
Yeah, me too.
I don't think any of my clients would do that. But I feel like when I'm saying, right, you need to be more of yourself, that's what people think
Yeah, they
they
think
need to do.
super vulnerable and really raw. Yeah.
Yeah. But like you say, you just need to find your platform to do it on.
Yeah. And I think the more you enjoy that particular platform, just the more natural your content's going to
Yeah.
feel and the more genuine you're going to come across. And then the more of the right people you're then going to attract to your
Yeah.
business as well. So, if you could send one message back to yourself in the early days of Greene Creatives when you were kind of still had it as a side hustle, what would that be?
I feel like I would want to say to her, you're going to do this. And because I used to listen to like other business owners on podcasts and be like, oh, I wish I was, that was me. So you are a business owner, but strap up because this is going to be a journey. And yeah, I think I would tell her to just to be kinder to herself. Like
Yeah,
you're achieving a lot and I'm bad. And I think a lot of business owners are like, okay, done, we've achieved that. Let's go to the
yeah,
next thing. So yeah, I think I would tell her to just like appreciate each part of the journey that she's about to go on.
yeah. I love that. And then for someone else who's in that situation right now, what would be your bit of advice to them? So they've not necessarily made it yet, but they're right there, maybe thinking about making the leap or
Yeah.
thinking about starting a side hustle.
If you're thinking about starting a side hustle, I would say do it because with side hustles, you're not got as much responsibility, you've still got your job. You might start it and it might not actually be for you. So you're
Hmm.
not going to know unless you do it.
Yeah.
If you're taking the leap or thinking about it, as long as you are financially, you've got a plan, you've built something up, you're not just jumping and not knowing what's happening. And I say that because business is stressful.
Hmm.
So I can't imagine how stressed I would be if I didn't know how I was paying the bills and things like that.
Yeah.
So you need to think of that. Then just go for it. Because one of the best advice I ever got when I was leaving was, it was actually from now a client, but at the time she said to me, when you work for yourself, you've got so much more brain space and like time to promote yourself.
Hmm.
So more work obviously comes. And I remember thinking, like, but it is so true because when you're like in a 9 to 5, that takes up 8 hours of your day. So by the time
Yeah.
you get to the side hustle, you just need to get through the work you've maybe brought in. You don't have the brain space to
To grow. Yeah.
grow this. So yeah, it is crazy the time that you can carve out to focus
Yeah.
and grow it.
And also, I think even where, like, obviously, it's not as much of an issue now because I think COVID and working from home and stuff like that. But like, even if you think you're 8 hours in work, plus potentially an hour either side commuting, if you're
Yes,
going to
that's
an
what I used
office,
to do.
then coming home, cooking dinner, maybe going to the gym, like, you really have no time for yourself.
No,
So, yeah, I completely agree with that advice. I think it's great advice for anyone listening. So, thank you so much for joining me today. I've really enjoyed our
thank you for
conversation.
having me. Yeah, I love that.
And where can everyone find? I will link everything in the show notes, all your socials. I'll link your podcast as well, so people can go back and
Thank
listen
you.
to that as well. But where can people find you?
Yeah, so main social platforms we use are Instagram and then TikTok's probably the secondary. And we also have a YouTube channel and the podcast. Yeah. And all the apps are Greene Creatives and Green's got an E on the end. But yeah, there's vlogs of behind the scenes. of me running this.
Love
But
that.
yeah, that's where you can find us.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you so much for having me, Laura. It's been really
No
great.
worries. So that's it for today's episode of the Solo Business Playbook podcast. If you found this episode helpful, it would mean a lot if you followed along or left a quick review, because it really helps more people to find the show. And if you're building your own business right now, I'm right there with you. You can find more resources, behind the scenes, and ways to work with me in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode. So that's it for today's episode of the Solo Business Playbook podcast. If you found this episode helpful, it would mean a lot if you followed along or left a quick review, because it really helps more people to find the show. And if you're building your own business right now, I'm right there with you. You can find more resources, behind the scenes, and ways to work with me in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.